Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have your doubts, not what I'm about, have your fucking cloud, it be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, bitch I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease.
What is going on, everyone? And in this video I'll be giving you my UFC Vegas 61 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, October 1st 2022 at the UFC Apex, once again in the Apex. So quick update real quick, about to go through a hurricane, so we'll see how that goes, but had to get the content out, right? You have to get the predictions out beforehand, and unfortunately it looks like the UFC pick'em thing is either going to get revamped or it's just not going to happen anymore. I'm not sure if the football thing kind of just took their priorities, probably, but either way, unfortunate. But we continue onward, and I'll still track my picks basically and leave them in the video, so like if there's any discrepancies, you know, it'll always be in the description beforehand, so there shouldn't be any of that. So either way, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So in the first fight on the main card, we have Mike Davis coming in this fight with a 9-2 record, taking on Viacheslav Borschev, a lightweight bout, 6-2 for Borschev. And I think this is going to be fight of the night because I think it's going to be one hell of a violent fight. And with that being said, I would expect to see some early action, early throwing down, especially from someone like Borschev, who, you know, we've seen him get in there. He definitely will start swinging wildly. Like, he'll leave himself open. You know, he just puts his hands at the bottom of his hips and just starts swinging. He kind of likes that kind of action. He's kind of banking on that. You know, he's a solid fighter. He's not going to get taken out, and then he'll land something on you. Now, that being said, he's taking on Mike Davis, who is also honestly a very heavy hitter. Stands on his leg to generate a lot of the power. You know, so early on it might actually benefit Borschev, just because, you know, if he welcomes a brawl, he might get one. And Davis is one of these guys where he can also land, right? And so we don't know. I mean, everyone, he's never been knocked out until they get knocked out, right? So I think Mike Davis early on is going to be willing to trade, but at the same time, I think the one thing for Davis is that he's going to be able to get in for those takedowns. And we've seen Borschev not really have success when he gets taken down. We saw that again, Mark D. Kesey, where he lost via unanimous decision, but he got taken down 11 times in that fight. Against Dakota Bush, he got taken down 2 times, and then against Chris Duncan, he got taken down 2 times as well. So he definitely can be taken down, and I really think Mike Davis is one of these fighters where maybe early on he tries to exchange with him just to see how that goes, but then he's going to dive in for the takedowns. And if Davis can get those takedowns, I really don't see Borschev having too much success on the floor. Maybe he gets up, but then eventually he keeps getting taken down. Now, if it turns into a brawl where everything's getting crazy, I mean, that's a little concerning, because we have seen someone like Davis, I don't want to say gas out, but when you start swinging wildly like that, big sluggish shots, you're going to tire out a little bit. And he also has a solid chin, but the problem is, the problem is I feel like Borschev will be okay, let's do that, right? So yeah, you don't want to see Davis getting too crazy in there. He had a good performance against Mason Jones in that fight where he got 3 takedowns and then Jones got 1, but he pieced him up in that fight, landed some pretty good shots. And then against Thomas Gifford, he won that fight via KO TKO round number 3 in a fight where Gifford was really outclassed in that one, at least. And then his first 2 bouts, you know, he took on Sadiq Yusuf, and then he took on Gilbert Burns. So he didn't have an easy 2 fights, and then he's winning his next 2 fights. So he's also fought better competition, Mike Davis. But I just think he has a little bit more ways to win. So rather than just only being able to slug it out, he can definitely go in for the takedowns as well. So we'll have to see what happens. But I'm going to go with Mike Davis, man. Borschev, pretty tough bastard. So I don't know if he's going to be able to finish him or even submit him or anything like that. But I do think Mike Davis wins this fight. I'll take him to win by a decision. In the second fight on the main card, we have a catchweight bout between John Castaneta, 19-5, taking on Daniel Santos, 10-2. And this should be a pretty good matchup as well. I'm really looking forward to this one. Castaneta is coming off He's coming off a victory over Miles Johns via submission, via arm triangle in round number 3, in a fight where he fought it very well. He looked very good in that fight, very technical, very patient, and then he was able to get his striking going on the inside, lit him up with a couple shots, and then eventually he was able to get that finish. Before that, he took out Eddie Wineland, but I think that's like a must. You have to be taking out Eddie Wineland at this point. His only losses against Nathaniel Wood, which he pretty badly got outstruck in that fight, didn't land the significant strikes, and got taken down one time and lost that unanimous decision. And obviously we've seen Nathaniel Wood coming off of that win against Charles Jourdain, so he's looking pretty good. But I do think Castaneta, he looks a lot better in his last fight. He really used his striking, was very patient, good movement, and so I'm really liking what we're getting from him. Now, when you look at Daniel Santos, he's coming into this fight with a loss in his first fight inside the UFC against Julio Arce, which he also got outstruck in that fight pretty significantly and lost via unanimous decision. Now, for Daniel Santos, very aggressive. He rips to the body. He'll throw in those spinning attacks too, so you always want to look out for that. He definitely will throw some big shots to get, he's not afraid to get in right in front of you and start throwing down, because he's banking that he's going to knock you out, right? His power is going to be pretty decent. Nasty elbows breaking off of the clinch as well. He's not going to really go for grappling or anything, but he will clinch up with you and, just try to probably drain on you a little bit, but he's not like diving in for takedowns. Castaneta, I think Castaneta is going to be probably obviously the more technical fighter, the more well-rounded fighter. In this fight, he definitely needs to stay composed. Don't get into these wild exchanges with Daniel Santos. Don't even try to go for all that. I think if he stays composed in this fight, we're going to see Santos slowly get picked apart and then frustrated, and he's still going to try to land big shots. But at the same time, Santos, if he does land, or if he fights a little bit smarter, if he tries to just calm it down a little bit, because both guys are, they're going to go forward. They're going to be they're going to get in the face of each other, I think. So we really have to see who is going to take advantage of that. Both cardio is good, I think. Both fighters have pretty good cardio. But I just think Castaneta is going to pick him apart as long as he doesn't get caught, because he looked very, very well in his last fight. So I like Castaneta. Yeah, just avoid the big shots, not get into that kind of fight, and kind of go to the body, go to the head. Maybe Castaneta even tries to go for a takedown. Who knows, right? Because he can also get a submission in there as well. So we'll have to see. But I'm gonna go with John Castaneta to defeat Daniel Santos. I'll take him to win by a decision. In the third fight on the main card, we have Sodiq Yusuf taking on Don Shainis in a featherweight bout. So 12-2 for Yusuf, and then 12-3 for Don Shainis. And in this one, it's going to be a short notice featherweight bout. So really not much for Sodiq Yusuf to gain in this fight, outside of him just either getting pretty fairly beaten or anything like that. And then it's going to set him back, because even if he pulls off like a decision, I guess it'd have to be a fairly dominant decision at least. But I would look for Sodiq Yusuf to want to go out here and get a finish, because you didn't get the opponent you really wanted, so you got to clean up this guy. And I would try to clean it up fairly quickly, because outside of losing to Arnold Allen, he has not lost inside the UFC. And you got to keep that momentum going, otherwise you're really not going to get those big pushes. And against Alex Caceres, he fought a good fight in that one. Pretty close striking battle, at least. And both got their one takedown on each other. But Sodiq Yusuf coming in this fight, great leg kicks, head kicks, pretty fast hands. He's not loading up on his shots necessarily like a brawler or anything like that. He's not a wild fighter. He takes his time. He tries to set things up. He can be taken down, but he has a fairly good get-up game as well. And then I think he can also get some takedowns if he needs to. Maybe handle his own in the clinch. I'm not saying he's going to be diving in for takedowns or anything, but especially against like Don Shainis, who probably is going to have the better grappling, I guess. Overall, yeah, I mean, he doesn't get wild, does a good job of targeting opponents with shots for Sodiq Yusuf, and then he'll break him down over time, go after that lead leg, anything like that. For Don Shainis coming to this fight on short notice, his last fight, you watched his last fight, he looked a little bit sloppy in that one, looked a little bit reckless, even gets clipped in that one and then dives in for a takedown. He'll go forward though, he's going to try to get in his face, he's going to try to go forward. His cardio is pretty good as well. I guess if he lands something, or maybe if he's able to get consistent takedowns, maybe Yusuff doesn't defend them and he gets dominated on the ground. I'm not too sure, but I wouldn't really bank on that happening. Although, like I said, I think Don Shane is probably, he has nothing to lose either, because he's like, hey, I'm going to take this fight on short notice. If I lose, well, I took the fight on short notice or whatever. But Sadiq Yusuff, man, like, you're fighting a guy who has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fights inside the UFC already, and you're just coming in here. So yeah, I mean, Sadiq Yusuff, I would say, like, as long as he can defend the takedowns, hurt him pretty badly on the feet, which we've seen him get hurt Don Shainis before, I think Yusuff could probably finish him in that first round. So unless it gets really crazy in there and someone looks bad or something, like Sadiq Yusuff looks bad, I don't really see it being too crazy of a fight. So I'm going to go Sadiq Yusuff. I'll take him to defeat Don Shainis. I'll take him to win by round 1 KO TKO. In the fourth fight on the main card, we have a bantamweight bout between Raoni Barcelos taking on Trevin Jones. 16-3 for Barcelos, and then 13-8 and 1-0 contest for Jones. Now, I think Jones can definitely find success in this fight if he lands a little bit more and doesn't sit on his back foot waiting to counter. Counter's not always going to be there, right? If you land the counter, yeah, it'll work. You'll put him down. You hit that left straight to his dome, and it's all over. But at the same time, if you let the guy beat you up a little bit too much, you're going to lose a decision, and it's just not going to go well. And, that's really questionable if Jones sits back a little bit too much in this fight, doesn't try to take advantage of openings, and doesn't just try to go. Because, like I said, I don't think countering is always going to work. Maybe it works this fight. Maybe he sleeps him, and that's all great. But for Barcelos, he's going to come forward. He's going to be the aggressor. Fast hands or good combinations. I wouldn't say he's sloppy early on, at least good heavy leg kicks. Obviously, as the fight goes on and the more he's just willing to trade shots, he's never put down, so he's definitely comfortable getting in there and throwing down with his opponent. But the more the fight goes on, I think, yeah, of course, Barcelos is going to tire out a little bit more just because he keeps going for it. He's on his, he's on the front foot. He's getting after his opponent. He's trying to take him out. Barcelos, I think he has great takedown defense. He could land some takedowns of his own as well if he really needs to. That could be a thing he tries to look for here. But I wouldn't really say like Barcelos is diving in for takedowns or anything like that. At least probably not early on. Maybe if he finds a little bit of trouble on the feet, then he goes in for the takedowns. Trevin Jones, like I said, he's okay with backing out, waiting for the counter, pretty fast left straight down the pipe. I think he's gonna have to match the pace though of Barcelos, because it could be a little bit too much if Barcelos is like in his face landing every shot that he can, and then Jones is like maybe landing a left here and there, but he's not really doing anything else, but he's constantly on his back foot. Like that could be a little bit concerning for me. Yeah, I'm not too sure Jones is gonna be able to like pick him apart and light him up over the course of 3 rounds if he fights how he has been fighting. So it'll be interesting to see this one, but I do think it's a good test for Jones. Like if Jones does come out of here and just nukes Barcelos, I think that's going to be a really good win for him. Obviously, with Barcelos being in the UFC a little bit longer, it would look very good if he like took him out or something like that. But for me, I still got to go with Raoni on this one. I think Barcelos, I don't want to count him out yet. I don't want to say he's shot just because he got outstruck in his last fight, because I think he took that fight on short notice. So we'll have to see how this one plays out. But Barcelos is going to be game, right? If you can take this dude out, you probably be pretty decently, pretty decent inside the UFC or whatnot. So I'm going to go, and I think it's going to be one of these fights too where if Barcelos does win, man, like he's going to be trying to go for the finish. If Jones is a little bit gassed out that third round, I think Barcelos tries to go for the finish. Barcelos is always going to go for the finish, but if Jones is a tough bastard too, we might see Barcelos try to put him away late, right? Because Barcelos will bring the fight even late as well. So I'm going to go Raoni Barcelos to defeat Trevin Jones. I'm taking a win by round 3, KO TKO. In the fifth bout on the main card, we have Randy Brown taking on Francisco Trinaldo in a welterweight bout. 15-4 for Brown, 28-8 for Trinaldo. Trinaldo's been inside of the UFC for a very long time, and you would think like maybe this guy is shot or something, but he finds a way to win, whether it's by decision or whatever. KO, TKO, like this dude keeps finding ways to be alive inside the UFC since June 23rd of 2012. So very impressive for Trinaldo, and just shows that like you don't want to overlook this dude. You know, it's like Alexey, Oleynik or whatever. You're like, all right, dude, like you just got to get out of here. Like you're too old for this shit. And then next thing you know, he's having like competitive fights where he's just rocking people, and he's kind of undersized, right? So yeah, it's just weird. But for Brown, Brown's pretty solid. The only thing about Brown is that he does make some mistakes, I think, and you know, against a guy like Trinaldo who would take your back or try to go for a submission, or once he gets you down, like he land the ground and pound and whatnot, catch you with the left hand. Not a guy you want to be making mistakes against. So if Brown can fix those mistakes and really clean it up for this fight, I could see him getting the victory. But for Brown, obviously his advantage, he fights very long, great jab. His kicks are pretty useful. His movement's on point, oddly enough, like more the fight goes on. Like he kind of gets better as the fight goes on. Early on, he definitely doesn't look the best, but I think if you're a better striker too than Brown, you could easily probably beat him up, which is why he has losses against better strikers. And Brown, everyone gets tired, obviously, but there's certain people that when they start getting tired, like their technique just goes out the window and it looks really sloppy. And I unfortunately think Brown's one of those fighters where he'll definitely get a little bit labored and sloppy when he starts to tire out a little bit more than other people, obviously. Grappling, very capable of getting a submission because of how lengthy he is. I don't see that happening against someone like Trinaldo though, just because I don't think Brown wants to be on the ground with Trinaldo to begin with, in my opinion. So whether it's offensively or defensively, I just don't think Brown's going to want to take it there. So yeah, I don't see Brown diving in for takedowns or anything like that, but I do see him, you know, if he tries to get taken down, I see Brown try to hold. I can see Brown holding his own at least early on in the fight. For Trinaldo, cracking left hand, man. Like this dude, that left hand is money. He'll start winging those shots in close. Not a guy you want to get tagged with on the chin as well. And Trinaldo's never been KO'd inside the UFC, so that's something to keep an eye out for. He definitely can stand there, bang with you. You know, he's not scared of getting hit. And like I said, man, like this dude's like a machine. He's in his 40s and he's just like a machine. You wouldn't really see like, oh, he's been in the UFC that long if you thought about it. Trinaldo, I could see Trinaldo going for the takedowns, but he needs to be a little bit careful against Brown just because Brown will pull for that guillotine if he gets a little bit too sloppy in there. So again, I don't see Trinaldo doing that too early on, maybe. For me, overall, Trinaldo's a veteran fighter in the game. He keeps reminding us why he deserves to be inside the UFC at that top level. And again, he's not a guy you want to be taken down with, landing ground and pound on you, looking for like a choke or anything like that. So you want to stay away from that. So for me, Randy Brown, in my opinion, needs to win this fight. Obviously, I think most people fighting Trinaldo should win that fight, aka Chaos Williams, Jared Gooden, Alex Oliveira, right? But they haven't. So my point being is like, on paper, you would think, oh, Randy Brown, got to get him in here. He should have him. But you never know, man. Trinaldo's one of those guys who's going to keep proving people wrong and win a decision, win a whatever, split decision or whatever. So I think if Brown fights along, stays away from these wild left cracking hands, uses that distance, stays upright on his feet, tags him with the left hand. You know, when he finds success with the striking like he did against Chaos Williams, he just needs to find that success earlier on, I think, in my opinion, because you can't let these guys settle in too much, right? Trinaldo starts to get settled in. This dude's setting up takedowns, taking it, and then you're going to get too tired, and next thing you know, Trinaldo's going to choke you out or something like that. He's going to ground and pound you. So I'm not too worried about Trinaldo, like, knocking him out. I'm more concerned with Brown just doing something that he shouldn't be doing, like going in for a takedown, and then next thing you know, this dude is getting choked out, right? Or who knows, right? He slips or something. It's going to be something stupid. Or maybe Brown does try to trade with him early inside of the pocket of all places and gets clipped. And then, but I think if Randy Brown is able to put in that striking early on, hurt him, go to the legs, stay away from getting taken down, I think Brown can find some success in this fight. So with that being said, I'm going to take Randy Brown to defeat Francisco Trinaldo. I'll take him to win by a decision. And then we move on into the main event of the evening between Mackenzie Dern and Xiaonan in a women's strawweight bout. 12-2 for Dern, and then 15-3 for Yan. Yan is coming off of a loss. Dern is coming off a victory in this fight. For Mackenzie Dern, she's coming off a good fight against Tecia Torres, which she won via split decision. Tecia Torres was able to outstrike her, but I think they obviously awarded those submission attempts as a pretty good positive. Although, you know, I don't know. I think like at the same time you reward people for getting into submissions and activating the submission, you got to reward people for getting out of the submission. I thought it was pretty good, man. Tecia Torres held on, didn't get submitted, but Mackenzie Dern, she's throwing up triangles, she's throwing up arm bars, she's trying to throw everything up, no matter where you're at, no matter what spot, like on top of the cage. Like Mackenzie Dern is one of those people who's spamming the takedown, right? In the UFC game, she's just spamming the takedown, bro, spamming the submissions. Like she's just constantly really got that boom spam. But her striking is getting better, which I think is a concern for a lot of these fighters that are fighting her, because the longer she has to get better with the striking, you know, maybe she starts getting a little better and then she opens up the grappling that way. So she has more of an avenue to get to the grappling if she has good striking. And so, but I still think, okay, you know, let's calm down here. I still think she did get outstruck in both of her 2 fights, right? Against Torres and then against Marina Rodriguez. So she is very tough and she is learning how to strike better, but I still think like one of her weaknesses is the striking. That being said, the moment she gets a hold of you, she just makes it a fight. So she could be getting her ass beat for that first entire round, and then round 2 comes around, and then she just is able to get a hold of you, and next thing you know, you spend the whole round just almost getting choked out. And that just doesn't look good, right, for the judges. For Mackenzie Dern, I think expect her to, you know, come out in this fight, close that distance, land some shots in close, grab a hold of her, see what she can do. Right, because if she can drag this fight into the ground and she's on top, even if she's not doing anything, right, if she's not successfully getting a submission, it's still gonna weigh heavy on your opponent if you're like mounted on top of them or whatever, or breaking their arm in half from like this awkward angle. For Jan, now this is where it's interesting because Jan obviously fast hands, good power and close. On the feet, I think she has all the aggression. She's gonna be able to outstrike Dern on the feet. But we've seen Jan not have success on the ground, and we saw that against Carla Esparza. Now you could argue that like, okay, whatever, right? It's Carla Esparza. Against Claudia Gadelha, she got taken down 2 times. So, and she did get the takedown against Karolina Kowalkiewicz 5 times. So she has some grappling. It's just a matter of like, how good is it? How good is your defensive grappling? But yeah, I still think like against Carla Esparza, obviously Dern hasn't fought Carla Esparza, but you never know, right? You don't really know how this is going to go down. I mean, Jan probably isn't going to be the better grappler than Dern, just because we've seen Jan be taken down in pretty dominantly. And I understand like it's Carla Esparza or whatever, but Mackenzie Dern is probably one of the top level woman jiu-jitsu ground fighters inside of the UFC on the women's side. So, you know, everything's looking great until she's like trying to break you in half. And so for me, Jan, you know, she can't let this fight get to the ground. It just wouldn't be smart. Now she's going to have to tag her early on the feet, right? She's going to have to start hurting her pretty early, just as much as Dern's going to have to grab a hold of her early. But the issue I have with this is, okay, let's say it gets into the second round. She survives. At any moment, Dern can get that submission. Like she can get this fight into an awkward position, and then it just alters the entire fight. And when you have 5 rounds to do it, I'm not too sure it's gonna go so well. And you know, we did see Mackenzie Dern take on Marina Rodriguez in a 5-round fight, but at the same time, you know, Marina Rodriguez, pretty tough fighter. She won a split decision against Jan, so that was a pretty good fight, right? So I think for me, Mackenzie Dern is going to get beat up on the feet, but then she's going to find a way to get into the floor. And whether it's multiple times she finds a way to get it on the floor, maybe she doesn't even get the submission, but she's going to just do enough to where Jan's going to get stuck in one of the rounds. Maybe she gets stuck in 2 out of the 3 rounds, or out of the 5 rounds, 2, 3 rounds, whatever. In the 5 rounds, I think she ends up getting stuck on the floor twice, and I think the second time she gets stuck, she's not going to be able to get back up, and I think Dern's going to be pretty much submitting her. So For me, I gotta go with Mackenzie Dern on this one. I feel like if Dern wins, it's gonna be early, first round, second round. You know, she's not gonna let Jan get out of here, right? But Jan could keep it competitive if she defends the takedown, stays away from her, right? She got to stay away from her, break out of the clinch, get away from me, piece you up, drop in bombs. She's got to do something because, like I said, if Dern gets a hold of her and then we just see Jan, like the takedown defense down, yeah, I think it's gonna be all over, man. I don't really see Jan defending. I don't really see Jan defending. You know, I kind of see something like how when she fought Esparza, where she gets taken down and kind of just, instead of getting TKO'd on the floor, I think she'll get submitted in that second round. So, yeah, it's like the writing's on the wall to defeat Mackenzie Dern, but it's just so damn hard because she just sets up the grappling exchanges so well. So, I'm going to go Mackenzie Dern on this one. I'm going to take her to defeat Xiaonan. I'll take her to win by submission in round number 2. And that'll do it, guys, for my UFC Vegas 61 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday. Hopefully I get to watch it and the hurricane doesn't absolutely crush the power. I'm not on the coast, so that is a good thing, but either way, hopefully I get to watch it. Hopefully nothing crazy happens, but if it does, at least the YouTube video for the upcoming UFC. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Leave your comments down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell me who you're picking, and you know what, I'll see you guys in the next video.